Evidently, Hydroid has become a fan of the Batman v Superman movie. Ah! / unstuck does nothing. Great. Awesome. I should just, like, rename my username Glitchfinder. Yeah, fuck you too, Skype.
Hey, what's up my fellow godlies, this is Vance from Starcom, and it is once again time for yet another God build. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Floyd Money Mayweather Fire figure skater, and that's Nezha. Now let me first start off by saying that I'm not too comfortable with a mythological transsexual deity being in the game. Yet in spite of that, I made the April Fool's trailer that I very much enjoyed doing. Although it was uploaded on April 2nd, I figured you guys could take just yet one more joke. I cosplayed as Deadpool, and speaking of the cosplay, we here at Starcom had our first ever Warframe contest this past week, and the winner of that contest will be revealed in the credit section at the end of the God Builds episode 17, Nezha. So with all that addressed, let's get into the actual build because we got a lot to cover. The typical mods are present in this God build: the Energy Siphon, the Rage, the Overextended, Prime Flow, Steel Fiber, Vitality, Prime Continuity, Streamline, and Constitution. However, what's very different here is the Cunning Drift. Because Nezha has a default passive of Slide and Friction, we're just going to boost that a little bit. Now I made a pun earlier referencing the Floyd Money Mayweather Fire figure skater. The reason for that being is because Nezha is a hit and run artisan. Because of his slide, he can utilize weapons that have a lot of slide attack damage. And if you're running with a Naramon lens on top of it, it's going to be a killer combo because every time you hit a crit, you speed yourself up with Berserker, and you cloak yourself as well. So moving straight into that, we're going to get into the melees I chose to use. Now because Nezha is so unique, we're actually going to do something that we've never done before in God Build's history, and that's recommend 3 different weapons that will suffice for this particular build. Technically you could say that we've done it before with the Necros God build, considering the fact that Snipetron Vandal wasn't available at the time, so we sort of had to recommend a second sniper for you to pick up. The first weapon that I recommend is Boltace, and the reason why I go to Boltace is because the spin attack is the highest in the game. However, it lacks in the normal melee department, so unless you're doing nothing but spin attacks, then it's not going to be worth it. Also, there's not a whole lot of work that I put into the Boltace, considering the fact that they announced there will be Syndicate melees that come to the game, and considering the fact that there's a Telos Boltor and Act Bolto, you would think that there's probably going to be a Telos Boltace. So if you're holding out for the Telos Boltace, I would probably put a Prime Reach on it, and I would also forma it quite a bit, and I would immediately update my build in order to feature that on Nezha, and if that ends up happening, then you can rest assured that you surely need to upgrade to Telos Boltace, and I would feature a link in the description of this Nezha God build to update the Telos Boltace in order to show you how I built it. Second weapon I'm running with is probably the dual Raza, because this thing is amazing with Maiming Strike, Blood Rush, and Body Count. If you don't have these mods, it's really unfortunate and you'll probably need to go to another melee that I recommend. But if you do, you're going to see red crits constantly, and if you pair this with the Naramon lens, you're going to be doing crits and you're going to remain invisible while you're spin attacking. Regardless of whether you're spin attacking or not, you're going to keep proccing red crits and you're going to decimate the enemies regardless. Last weapon that I care to recommend is the Ripkas, and the reason for that being is specifically because we used them twice before, with the Oberon and the Hydroid build, so it's a given what they can do and why they would be useful here. So I need not explain anymore, and I also didn't want to suggest it because with the god builds, I try to keep it as diverse as humanly possible, utilizing an arsenal of versatility. Moving on to other assets of this build, you can pretty much use any primary of your choice. Just keep in mind that since you're slide attacking at such a higher rate, your mobility is going to be super high, and it's going to make it increasingly difficult to utilize weapons that have pinpoint accuracy, such as Burst of Prime, Latron Wraith, or even recently the deck Cybris. Other than that, the one thing we've yet to cover here is the companion that I chose to use. It's getting monotonous at this point, but I am again using Diriga, and the reason for that being is because, disappointingly enough, Oberon had troubles with closing the distance, and he also had troubles taking a hit. But with Nezha, we have damage mitigation using Warding Halo, and we also have Diriga present with the Naramon lens, meaning that while we're invisible, Diriga can be utilizing his Arc Coil and the Volclock rifle to snipe things at a distance. So if something manages to see us before we see it, Diriga will get the jump on it before they get the jump on us, and if we see a downed enemy, we can definitely capitalize on that finisher damage when we get up close and personal. There is, however, one more thing that still needs discussed, and that's the Naramon lens. I've never showcased any amount of lenses before in the past, so I thought it might be appropriate that I open it up and show you what I did here. Now, by default, if you're first starting out with Naramon lens, you have to put points into Mind Spike. From there, I would go to Strategic Execution, so that you can unlock the most important passive in this build, and is a very important passive to other god builds essentially as well, such as Necros, Excalibur, and even Ashe. But because I'm using it on Excalibur and Ashe as well, I also chose to go down to Tactical Strike to unlock the Reveal Weakness. Now, Reveal Weakness can be a little bit confusing here, as it states that Mind Spike opens up enemies to finishers and increases finisher damage taken by 20%. What that is in regards to is the initial Mind Spike. What I found is that the Mind Spike only happens when you activate the power. After that, this becomes useless, so it's a one-time thing, and if that's the case, then I would probably go with Mind Spike Mastery to reduce the cooldown. That way I could spam it a little bit more, especially in those instances where you really need to hit a finisher on a boss. I've not yet tested for this, obviously, since I don't have Mind Spike Mastery unlocked, but in theory, if you could utilize Mind Spike on the Juggernaut Behemoth, then perhaps you could finisher his ass to death. I'm now arriving at that point in the video where I've essentially addressed everything that should be addressed about Nezha and his god build. Surprisingly enough, the delay that came between the trailer that was released for Nezha and his actual god build was time I took away actually build testing. And I do mean the entire time. It wasn't just because I was providing people time to submit their entries for the Deadpool cosplay costume contest on our Facebook page. Although that is a good point to bring up in closing, letting you know that if you haven't already, you can most certainly get active in on the Facebook discussions and participate in votes, contests, and whatever else is going on that page. So if you like this video, feel free to thumbs up, comment, and share to a friend. And until next time,